Hello there. Hey, Antoni
Hey,
Gene, playwright. You're a playwright. I'm having a playwright today on my on that I'm get to interview. I'm so excited. It's really cool. My name's Ezra Palmer Person, but the man, the star of the show here is playwright Antoni Gene. He
well,
has
thank
written
you,
this
thank you.
this play. What's it called now? It's called oh yeah, Lasagna and the Lunar Module.
That's right.
I mean, on the surface, it seems so wacky, so it doesn't make sense. But and looking at the script and everything, it's just fabulous. But still,
Thank you.
why, Tony? My first question is, it's a burning question. Why lasagna? And
Well,
then the
yeah, I mean, it's funny that you asked me that. The train of this thought that I came to this play was an interesting one.
oh
I
really? Okay.
I actually am an artist too, and I remember the time we watched the moon landing. I had some pictures of me watching the moon landing out with my brother at my brother's house in Millbrae, California, and I thought, oh, I remember the lasagna that my mom was really upset about the lasagna, and I
Uh
thought,
huh.
that would be a cool painting.
Oh
So I don't know why. So the thing you see behind me is a
yes,
painting.
I
And
see. Oh, wow.
so I did a huge painting, a couple of small ones, and a huge painting of lasagna and the lunar module. That's how I got
Yeah.
and not in the, but and the. And so I started thinking about it. I love the imagery together. It's so juxtaposed, like that. The law technology of the lunar module and this, very organic and analog lasagna. And
Mm-hmm.
then I started thinking my sister was in a lot of plays. She was an actress and on Broadway two times too, which is
Mm-hmm.
amazing. And
Yeah.
I've been around plays all my life, since I was a kid. And
Mm-hmm.
then in high school, I worked on a lot of plays and as a tech person.
I see.
Never an actor. I always liked the other side of it, but I've been around plays all my life with my sister. So yeah, it just came to me like, that would be a really interesting play. And I
Huh.
thought, because
What a mind.
um, you have the smell of the lasagna through the audience.
Mm-hmm.
You have the sounds of the old television set, the Magnavox. We had one of those huge Magnavox TVs,
I
like
see.
this altar, it was this incredible piece of furniture, with a record player and a
Oh, I
radio.
remember those. My grandmother
Yeah,
had one.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, um, I think that those are so tactile, and I thought this would be much better play than a book because there's so many things happening. And as I started writing it, I wrote it about 7 years ago, but then lately, in the last say year, I started upgrading it and changing it and improving the idea.
Uh-huh.
So that's where the lasagna came from. It just came from the fact that we really had lasagna, and my mom made a big deal about it. And I remembered it. I was 14 years old at the time, but it
Uh-huh.
just always stuck with me that my mom was more, interested in lasagna than the moon landing.
I see. That's great. That's great. So that's how you came up with the idea. But
Yeah.
why in reading it, why Millbrae? I mean, of all the cities
Right.
that you could
Well, that's where I grew up. It is
uh-huh.
interesting to note that Millbrae is where the San Francisco airport is, and to the north, the city to the north is very working class cities. All the way up
Mm-hmm.
to San Francisco, you have very working class, less income neighborhoods.
I
And
see.
then to the south of Millbrae, you have a really rich neighborhood. Bing Crosby, Paul McCartney was going to live there. Really, really huge, Hillsborough, California, Burlingame, California is really wealthy and very conservative. So Millbrae sort of sits in the middle between these two um, suburbs. And I
I
think
see.
that that's very much like our family was at that time in the middle,
I
kind
see.
of, you know,
Middle class, middle
yeah,
middle.
middle class and not wanting to be that rich,
Right.
but we're not working class people either. We're a little bit in the middle of that. So Millbrae
I
plays a
see.
big role, and I think Millbrae was very modern compared to Burlingame and other
Mm-hmm.
cities. They
Mm-hmm.
had a very modern library, and they had modern things were happening in Millbrae, very more than any other place on the peninsula. And my father was one of the first mayors. I think
Oh,
he was
really?
either the first mayor and helped incorporate. Um, Millbrae into a city.
I
So
see.
so Millbrae is kind of an important. Millbrae is a character in the play.
Huh. That's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, well, as I got into the script and read it, it was just and also the lasagna seemed to be sort of yeah, like you say, representing the Italian, the family and all that, and then that then they're interfacing with the technology of the moonshot. So it was a great balance too. I thought.
Well, I also think that, interestingly enough, that my father wasn't so Italian, even though he was born there. He came over when he was 16. So he
Hmm.
wasn't really, he would always opt for something other than Italian, even though my mom was probably more Italian and
Hmm.
probably we were too. But what's interesting is it is about Italian Americans watching the moon landing,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's not so Godfather or
Oh,
Moonstruck.
right.
It's not a Rose Tattoo is a great example. Tennessee Williams
Oh no, you
Rose
definitely
Tattoo
get
is
rid of the
yeah
stereotype.
yeah we're
Susan
trying
Gangster
to I'm
thing.
trying
Oh
to
no.
turn that down a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's an authentic family.
The
It's
Rose
great.
Tattoo. My sister was in a play in L.A. for many years, and she won some awards for that. And Tennessee Williams wrote a really good play about Italian American woman in Alabama or something.
Hmm.
And it's just so over the top cliche. So when I wrote this, I wrote it that yes, lasagna is, but it could be a casserole, it could be noodles, it could be any ethnic food. It
Hmm.
just happens to be our food.
No, it
So
works. It's
yeah,
great.
it's not really bang you over the head Italian American play.
Uh
It
huh.
has a little bit of that element, but it's more about family.
But one thing that intrigues me about it too is that nowadays everybody's an influencer. They're on YouTube.
Hmm.
They're doing podcasts, sort of like what we're doing
That's
here.
right.
And what made you decide to write a play? I mean, that seems like you're taking a step back in some ways.
Well, that's another interesting thing that a very good friend of mine in New York lost his
Uh-huh.
theater this last year. A lot of the theaters are closing down on off Broadway. They were a very successful play family, and he lost his theater, and they had to sell it. And a lot of theaters have closed, and the theater industry is dying.
Uh-huh.
But I think that it will swing back the other way because it's
I see.
the tactile experience that you can experience in a play is nothing like anything else that you can watch on Netflix and you could pause it while you go make a sandwich or you
Yeah.
have to really be concentrated. You have to be there the whole time and there's smells, there's sights, and there's things happening all around you
Mm-hmm.
that you cannot get in any other
Mm-hmm.
medium, in a
Mm-hmm.
book, in a TikTok or any of those kind of things.
Well,
I think it'll come back.
well, you're right. I remember in the script you have several times where you actually, known as the fourth wall. The audience, you
Yeah,
sort of break that fourth wall, and that's
right.
an example. So what was the motivation behind that? I mean, that was that to make it more real like that, to have that experience, or are there some other elements in there?
Well, I think because it's not like YouTube or TikTok or
Uh-huh.
Netflix, I wanted to make sure that we put lots of them in there. Not too many, but enough to
Uh-huh.
really shake the audience up and have a lot
Hmm.
of interaction and a lot of things that are happening. It's an immersion type of situation where some of the characters are coming in through the audience, and some of them are talking to the audience directly. And there's smell, sights, and things to touch and feeling. It's very tactile, and
Uh-huh.
I like that. I don't know if any other things I've ever written. Wrote another book about advertising in the '80s. I don't think that would make a very good play. It makes a very good novel,
Uh-huh.
maybe a good movie, hopefully
Or
someday.
maybe
But
textbook.
certainly, yeah, oh, yeah. Well, yeah. It's called Liars, Cheats, and Thieves about advertising in the '80s, which I
Uh-huh.
was in,
Uh-huh.
and I was a creative director in advertising, so I saw that firsthand. But you couldn't really make a play. I mean, I guess you could, but this is just so tailor made
Oh yeah.
for a play. It
Well,
it
there's
just tailor made.
there's so many levels to it, and that's
Yeah,
really is I'd love to see a production of it, because
yeah,
you have this dynamic of the family watching a historical event, world
that's right.
history in action, and you would picture everybody would just be in awe in front of the TV and just, oh my God, and all this kind of stuff. And that yet there's all this wonderful interaction that's good and bad and funny, hilarious. I mean, maybe you could
Well,
describe
yeah,
some of
the
it.
moon landing is just sort of the mantra behind it. They just gathered because they
Yeah,
thought they should. I didn't really realize nobody was really interested that much in my family in it. Maybe my brother was kind of whoa the technology or something, but
yeah.
I certainly wasn't at 14. I wasn't really interested that much. I think
Hmm.
I fell asleep during it. I have a good picture of me falling. My sister-in-law took a picture of me asleep, but I did notice that my family, as normal, was extremely dysfunctional
Uh-huh.
most of the time. But during that one moment where they walk on the moon, we were calm for a moment there.
Yeah. Well, that's right. That's right. It's, you
Yeah.
see, that's the catalyst. That's what brought people together, and then you get to explore all the family
Yeah.
dynamics.
Yeah, and
And
I think this play also is about the dynamics between my brother and I, because my brother is 16 years older than me.
oh, I
He
see.
was studying for the bar exam. He's a very serious guy and
Uh-huh.
very, professional dude, and I'm, sort of semi crazy, creative guy. So we're very different, and so
Uh-huh.
but there's times that we lock together, and that those
Mhm.
times are really cool when we're on the same piece of music and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
when the moon landing was happening, we were like, we just stepped in dog poo poo, Houston. There was dog poo poo right on the stairs. We were making jokes and we were
Uh-huh.
laughing,
Uh-huh.
and so I think that you see the dynamics of the brother going back and forth through this whole play, and that's really an important fact of this play is the brother relationship.
Uh-huh. I
Yeah.
see.
And also, my father sadly had a stroke
Yeah.
a couple of months before that, and it was really bad. A long story there, but he couldn't talk, and he could make sounds, but he had to write notes. So right away, we have that in the play where my character explains that my
Mhm.
dad had a
Mhm.
stroke. Take it
Mhm.
easy. He's going to write notes through the play. So we see him writing notes, and it's a great way to tell what's going on rather than speaking,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
it really happened. It's true.
I see.
Most of these things are true. I
Wow.
didn't have to make it up.
I mean,
I'm sure you.
that crazy character you have in there, that what was she, a podiatrist, I think?
Yeah, and she was a podiatrist, and she had two Siamese cats,
Well,
and she was of questionable sexual orientation.
uh-huh.
She was really nice lady, but she was out to lunch.
Yeah.
And I make her the tenant of the duplex, the other side of the duplex.
Oh, I see. I see. Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't fully
so
get that.
that's why they invite her. But yeah, she
Uh-huh.
was a loon bird, and she would come over to the house and take my National Geographics out of the thing. I had a lot of
Uh-huh.
National Geographic. And she would be thumbing through them, and she'd go, "Oh, the Wonga Wonga tribe of Africa. These people." I was like, "What? Put the National Geographics back, please." She would just take things like she would take something and look at it underneath, and she was so snoopy, and she would ask very ready questions like, how come your brother married a Japanese girl?
Oh, yeah, that's another
Where,
dynamic in there,
yeah,
the
well,
different cultures.
where did she meet the Japanese girl? So the audience is getting a lot of information from the
I
podiatrist,
see.
which is I make her where she's the feeder of the information that we all want to know.
Uh-huh.
She says, "Well, she had a stroke. I know a good doctor. We could fix it." You
Mhm.
can't
Mhm.
fix that. Yeah. So the characters were all real, and the other character, the teenage girl who's wandering around, the hippie girl, that was real. And
Huh.
she was older than me, and she had the hots for me, and she was after me. And I was like, "Hey, I'm only 14. I don't know anything about girls, and I haven't even made it to seventh grade yet, and I'm going to get beaten up in seventh grade." We were also worried that when we went to Taylor Junior High School, we'd be beaten up immediately. I said, "Let me survive seventh grade first, then we'll talk about that." But she was boy happy, and
Uh-huh.
one of the reasons why is she lost her father in Vietnam. He was killed
Right.
in Vietnam,
Oh,
and it's a true
oh.
story.
Uh-huh.
So she was sort of a aggressive girl.
Mhm.
I look back, I thought, yeah, that was stupid. She was real cute.
Uh-huh.
She just
Yeah,
kind of
she's just
scared me.
taking
I didn't
advantage
know
of her
anything about
dysfunction.
girls. I mean, I didn't know
Just
anything about girls at 14.
uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I just but she was always
Yeah, it
after
was
me.
a
So
different time. Yeah,
yeah,
nowadays
yeah.
you
And
learn
she
about all
turned me
that
on.
in
She was
kindergarten.
the first person to turn me on to marijuana. She's like,
Oh.
you want to smoke a joint outside? What's that? Oh, so we smoked marijuana during the moon landing. So I have that in there. So if you read this play, you would say this is impossible. These people cannot be real. They
Uh-huh.
were real. They were real. I
I
have to
know
do
some of the
very
bits
little writing.
are so funny that you have that screen door thing that you do,
Oh yeah,
and then
the screen door
and
was always jammed.
yeah.
And now the one thing that I made up was my cousin, who is a little questionable, you know, criminality. We don't know what he's doing. My mom
Uh-huh.
always said he was a businessman. As your nephew. I doubt it. My brother and I always had a thing. about this guy. We always he stole from us so many times
Oh,
too. He'd
really?
steal shit from us, so
Oh,
we were
God.
really leery. But in the play, he doesn't really. In reality, he does not come to the
I
playhouse.
see.
But I put him in the play just for extra, and I throw him through the screen door window, you know. I throw him through the broken screen, and my brother says it was broken anyway. Don't worry about it. So I have some things that are made up, but
Yeah,
they're based on real characters. And
I
if
see.
if that person was there, that probably would have happened.
I
Because he
see.
was he would say like, Asian man, why didn't you go to Vietnam? You were stupid to go to Vietnam. Well, first of all, I didn't go to Vietnam. I went to Japan. I was stationed in Japan, my brother says,
Uh-huh.
and I met my wife in Japan. Well, the
Uh-huh.
Japanese are just like the Vietnamese, man. They're the enemy, that kind of guy.
God.
And so, of course, there was going to be a fight.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and with all my judo training I did since I was 8 years old, I picked him up and threw him out the screen door. screen door. So, yeah, that's a lot of. There's some violence in it, a little bit of
Hmm.
violence, but
Hmm.
but it all in good nature.
Well, it sort of seems more like slapstick, really. I don't.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
slapstick,
I don't
but
get.
yeah.
I don't get any. Real fighting.
Well, there was always arguing,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, between the brothers and stuff, and the Vietnam. The Vietnam was a big issue, like for or against. My mom's like, America's right. America should nuke Vietnam, that kind of thing. What? I don't think so. I don't think we should be there, Mom. It's not the. Eisenhower did say military industrial complex. I was kind of a smart kid. I knew that stuff,
Uh
but
huh.
they just believed that America was right.
Well, it just seems like there's so much everyone can identify with, even today. I mean, it takes place at that time in the '60s there, but nowadays
Yeah,
it's the same stuff all over again, just the sort of different groups and different
that's right.
attitudes. But I think people will really identify with it, even though they may not be literally that character. The elements and the personality of that character will be something they'll identify with, and the dynamic they have with other people. So it's very powerful, really.
I
So,
think so. I tried to get a lot of elements, but like I said, I didn't have to make too much up
uh huh.
because it really happened. And the moon landing was just sort of an extra thing that we got together at the house. And it was a lot of things changing. My dad slipping away, and my brother becoming the next generation that would take the family business to another level, which he
Hmm.
did.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm very proud of him for that. He's a very smart guy.
Hmm.
And even though we're not the same generation and the same thinking, I love him to death. He's great. And
Hmm.
so, I think it was a lot of different dynamics happening in 1969. I'm sure a lot of young people think, did Elon Musk go to the moon? I mean, nowadays these kids, they don't know what it was
Oh yeah, everybody
like
thinks that history starts with
69.
them. I mean, that's my opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in a way, this is for them too. For my kids, who I have 7 children, which
Oh
which
my
is a
God.
lot, even
Yeah.
in Japan. So
Mhm.
I kind of like to show them that how Dad grew up.
Yeah.
My 2 girls went to Millbrae just recently, and they toured around Millbrae with my brother, and they just loved it. They loved to see where their dad grew up. Since
I see.
I've lived in Japan now for 26 years. I've been in
Whoa.
Japan,
Okay.
and I think that's another reason that
Mhm.
this
Mhm.
play came about,
Uh
because I
huh.
have such distance from
Yes.
Millbrae. And I realized, Millbrae was a nice place to grow up. It was a really great place.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm really, really lucky to have grown up there. I don't know what it's like now. I hear a lot of stories one way or the other, but I am so lucky to have grown up there. And what a great place on the peninsula,
Yeah.
weather-wise, politics-wise, everything. So uh,
Yeah.
it
Well,
is a character of this play is Millbrae,
I see.
California. Yeah. So
Yeah, that brings back that time because I tell you, one thing about Millbrae nowadays is that it's not lower class or middle class or it's everything's expensive down there. So
yeah, 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 yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I heard
has a
that too.
different flavor
That's right.
on that scene. Well, that's great. Well, Tony, excuse break, Anthony, it's been great having you today.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Great.
I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. And there's actually so much about that I want to talk about, but I'd be letting the ending out. I'd be ruining for everybody
No,
because
it's really good. I try to make it extremely entertaining for people, that when someone would think that they're going to laugh, they're going to cry, they're
yeah,
going to chuckle, they're going to scream, they're going to, I want to entertain somebody, as an advertising guy and a writer, I think I'm funny. Most people thought I was in radio advertising, but I'd like to get that across in this play.
Yeah.
I laugh so hard when I'm writing it because I know it was real.
Uh-huh. Well, that's
You
right,
know,
and the ending is so wonderful. The way it
yeah, the ending
all
is great.
ties
Yeah,
together. I just
yeah.
can't say any more
I
because I'd like
cried like
people to
a
go to the play.
I cried like a baby when that came to me.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
You're just sitting there and I think, how am I going to end it? And then I realized it came to me.
Yeah.
Just boom, and I put it into my notebook, and I was just tears going down my eyes because, yeah, I realized that was a powerful. It's very powerful. The play is very powerful. It's about family,
I see. Yeah.
about family
Family.
dynamics, and
Absolutely.
what's important to life, what's
Hmm.
important to your
Hmm.
life, what you should really hold on to in your life, not the money and the success and the this and that,
Yes,
so
yes, it has a very spiritual undertone,
it does, it does,
and I'm dying to tell the ending, but I don't want
all
to.
based
I'm
around
not going to.
lasagna.
So yeah, if you want to have a good meal of lasagna and go to the moon,
Oh,
come
you'll be
see me.
hungry after this play. You're gonna want to eat some lasagna for sure.
All right, Tony. Well,
Thank
Anthony,
you.
Anthony, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you today. And then I want you to, I wish you the best in the future, and we gotta get this play on stage. That's all I got to say.
Thanks.
So thanks
Thank you.
very much. We'll see you.